Okay, thank you for coming. And again, this panel is about the so-called blockchain revolution of intellectual property. And we're very honored to have Zach and Clarence from Elastos. And they're gonna first introduce their wonderful project. And after that, I'm gonna spend about 5 minutes to introduce mine too.
Thank you. So I have a PowerPoint here. I want to see if it's set up. Okay, so the first thing I want to say is no conversation on intellectual property in the internet would be complete without prefacing it by saying until we have property rights on our current internet, we're never going to have intellectual property rights. And what I mean by that is everyone here produces data on the internet, and none of us really outright own our data. So that's what I want to say to start. Elastos is a project that's building a modern internet. So I want to start by quoting an artist, because I really believe that it's going to be artists and coders coming together to solve this problem of content creation and intellectual property. So Arthur Rimbaud is a French poet from the 19th century, and he wrote, "One must be absolutely modern." So I'm going to talk about the modern internet. Now, as was said, blockchain is being touted as a revolutionary new technology that can change everything about our society. And while I do agree with that, I want to say that blockchain is not going to solve all the problems of the internet. Today's internet is ripe with problems. First of all, it's outdated. It's very unsafe for our data, and I think we can all agree that there's even a certain madness to today's internet. While we can't change the infrastructure of people that use this internet, we really have to start to change the infrastructure of the internet. The internet really needs a renaissance. It needs an awakening. That's what we plan to do at Elastos. So the internet is really an illusion. We see what we want to see. We see what others want us to see. What we don't see is what it is. The internet is merely data. So if you don't own your data, you really own nothing. And that's what giant corporations don't want you to know. Today's internet has two massive problems: data security and data ownership. And as we head into an IoT-enabled smart world, we're about to connect so many more devices to the internet. These problems are going to get exponentially worse if we don't fix the infrastructure. The problem starts with our operating systems. The operating systems on our devices were never designed in unison with our internet. So when you go on the internet, your operating system doesn't get involved. It leaves your application vulnerable. So the idea is we want to create an operating system for our internet. Connect smart devices all over the world into a giant supercomputer and give this supercomputer an operating system. It's called a network operating system, and we've had one in development for 18 years. Our project really precedes blockchain. So we can put our network operating system on pretty much any smart device in the world, any IoT device, any smartphone. When our product's released, you'll be able to download like an app from the App Store. We want to connect all of these smart devices all over the world directly, peer-to-peer, into a supercomputer. All data will become decentralized. We're going to decentralize the entire internet. All data will become outright ownable. So this isn't just intellectual property like a movie or a piece of music. This is all your data will be ownable. Finally, we want to add blockchain into the equation. It's not the centerpiece of our project, but blockchain is a fantastic technology if used correctly. So we want to give everything on our entire internet its own ID from our blockchain. So that means that every single website, every single device, every single person will have an ID from our blockchain. You won't be able to just send data anymore. Everything will have to be verified from the blockchain first. And this is where intellectual property comes in. Everything you own, every piece of music, every piece of data, anything you create on this new infrastructure has an ID. And you can't even access it unless it's verified. So we're creating ownership of data on the internet. So this is a modern internet. It's a smart web of devices. It's powered by blockchain. So everyone can now own data. Everyone can now exchange data safely, and what we really want to do is create a global data economy. We really believe that data is the next thing that's going to fuel the global economy once it's back in the hands of the people that actually produce it. So how do you build a community and a movement around this new concept? Most people don't know what blockchain is, they don't know how the internet works. So one of the things we did to get involved with the blockchain community is we partnered with Bitmain, and we have merge mining with Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is the most famous of all the cryptocurrencies, and by partnering with them, we actually have a really, really secure ecosystem to our project. And then we decided that we would try to create a country out of our idea. We believe that the internet is sort of the one country that everyone needs. So we built a cyber country called Cyber Republic, and it's really a place where entrepreneurs and developers can sign up, and you can be talented at almost anything, whether you're a lawyer, or you're a developer, you're a marketer, you're in communications. You can sign up, create a profile, connect peer-to-peer, and help build applications on this new internet. We're the infrastructure, and we want people all over the world to come in and build on top of this new internet. So one of the interesting things about our infrastructure is, if you know a little bit about blockchain, is that everything on our internet can have its own sidechain. So we have a blockchain for our entire ecosystem, but if you're a DApp, let's say you're a DApp that's going to facilitate some sort of content creation peer-to-peer, like a film or music, you can have your own sidechain. So you can have your own blockchain just for your project. Two of the really big initiatives we have going for Cyber Republic, this huge decentralized ecosystem. One's called CR100. We're going to fund 100 dApps on Elastos, so teams of entrepreneurs can submit white papers. They can get funding from us, and then they can find other people who are talented, like marketers or lawyers, whoever they need. And we can really build out this ecosystem and start funding actual dApps for this new internet you'll be able to have on your phone in the next couple of years and launch this decentralized internet. Other projects called Empower 35. This is sort of how we're going to have our decentralized government run. We're going to allow people to come in, and we're going to have democratic elections. And people are going to be able to run for sort of office in Cyber Republic and make really important decisions. So we have this foundation that we have in China. But we also have this very, very decentralized project where we're empowering the world to take over this internet that we've created for almost 18 years. Give it to the world and make it decentralized. So I'm going to turn it over to my good friend Jiarui here. He's going to talk about his project.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and again, thank you for having me in this wonderful event. This is actually my very first time giving a presentation in front of a movie screen, right? So I hope our panel is going to be a blockbuster as well. So let me first introduce my background. I'm actually a law professor who is doing research in the areas of intellectual property and the technology law, right? So recently I'm working on a prototype trying to connect a blockchain and intellectual property. I call this BCE, a blockchain ecosystem for copyright entertainment. So let me start with a hypothetical scenario, right? So assume you want to send $100 to your cousin living in another city, right? But then you went to a bank, and the bank told you you need to pay 85% as processing fee. How about that? 85% as processing fee. And then you love your cousin so much, right? You decide to buy the bullet. Okay, let's do it. Then the bank told you it's gonna take 3 months. Sometimes it's gonna take up to 2 years for the money to arrive. And most importantly, if the bank cannot locate your cousin, the bank is going to give the money to other clients of the bank. Do you have any doubt that you will probably never go to the same bank again, right? But that's actually the everyday reality in copyright industries, right? And actually, in a typical copyright deal, for every dollar consumers pay for content, artists only receive less than 15 cents, right? It's usually take from 3 months to a couple of years for them to receive copyright royalties. And it also reported that 20 to 50% of copyright royalties never reach their rightful owners at all, right? Let us dig into this problem in a bit more details, right? We all know since 2003, the iTunes Store, Apple's iTunes Store, offered music download for $0.99, right, per download, per song, right? But today, right, if you play a music stream, basically, right, at Spotify, artist at maximum can only receive $0.003, and the situation at YouTube is even worse, right? They can only receive $0.0007 from YouTube per stream, right? How crazy is that, right? Let's put this into perspective, right? We all know at this point the federal minimum wage is about $11.60, right, per month, right? $11.60 per month, right? It's about right? And in order for artists to earn minimum wages, basically flipping burgers at McDonald's, right? The minimum wages for a year. If you want to sell albums at iTunes, 2,000 pieces, 2,000 copies is enough, right? But if you go to Spotify, you need 3.5 million streams. If you go to YouTube, you need actually around 20 million streams. 20 million streams, right? How many people can achieve 20 million streams a year, except for a very small group of superstars, right? So, but what about emerging stars, emerging artists? What about mid-class people, right? And as tiny as the payment is, not all the money gonna go to artists, right? So we did an empirical study here, right? And again, for every dollar consumer pay for content, Spotify only eventually only give 14.69% to artists, right? Less than 50%. Less than 50%. The rest will go to labels, publishers, collecting societies, right? And 85% will be used to cover transaction cost, right? So how can we explain the enormous, crazy inefficiency in the copyright industry, right? And what's the problem here? And as a lawyer, I could find out the major reason is the complex legal landscape in copyright industries. Let me give you an example. Again, I'll use music as an example, right? So for every piece of music, album, song, right, there are at least two kinds of copyrights. One is musical work, another is sound recording, right? For each kind of work, you involve different authors. For sound recording, you involve artists, vocalists, producers. For musical works, you involve songwriters, composers, lyricists, right? And for each kind of copyright ownership, there are different rights. There are mechanical rights, sync rights, there are performance rights, and you have to clear copyright licenses for each rights individually, right? So last night, I spent a solid 3 hours trying to simplify the licensing process as much as possible. That's, you know, again, I'm a law professor, right? That's what I got so far, right? There are dozens of steps you have to go through to get a copyright license. And we all know musicians, artists, they don't want to deal with legal matters, right? So they actually assign their rights to labels and publishers, right? And the label and publishers, they also don't want to deal with legal problems. So they actually delegate their rights to collecting societies. Then collecting society don't want to do that. So they give all, give all the legal matters to lawyers, right? So this is how we come up with stuff like this, right? For lawyers, this is a paradise, right? And but for consumers and for artists, it's a nightmare, right? And again, I spent 3 hours to simplify this process. In theory, it involves probably 2 or 3 dozens of steps, right? But in reality, this is much more complicated. I'll just give you one example. This is a hit from a few years ago, right? Uptown Funk, right? So just one song. If you wanna claim copyright royalties, if you wanna actually receive copyright royalties, you have to go through thousands of steps. Right? There are thousands of license agreements involved just in one song, one hit song. So again, as lawyers, we like complexity, right? Complexity means business for lawyers, but for artists, I think complexity is fraud, right? Complexity is fraud, right? So what we are doing is trying to use blockchain technology, try to use smart contracts to hard code thousands of copyright rules, license terms, money flows, right? Make everything automatic, right? So, and most importantly, smart contracts, they are self-executing, they are immutable, right? So we can actually prevent legal disputes before they actually happen, right? So we did an empirical study. We think, with blockchain-based smart contracts, we can actually increase copyright royalty per stream 16 times more than Spotify offers, 80 times more than YouTube offers, 80 times more than YouTube offers. More importantly, and the smart contracts will automatically enforce all the rights and obligations under copyright license agreements, right? So every time there is a consumer who clicks on one music, one song, one video, 100% of the money, royalties, will go to artists, right? It's in a matter of seconds, not a matter of months or matter of years, right? And most importantly, and our smart contracts will be self-executing. It will minimize the legal risk of breach of contract, breach of fiduciary duty, and nobody will have any incentive to either misappropriate copyright royalties or sit on copyright royalties. And I think that's all for now, and I will open the floor for our discussions among three of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jiarui. I'd just like to say, hearing what you said, I mean, as an artist myself, I really think that artists are not represented on the internet. You would agree, right? All the statistics that you just told us for that streaming services, while they are doing a great job on their own end, artists themselves don't have a lot of options on the internet. If the average person doesn't have any option to control their own data, then an artist has to pretty much give away not a piece of data, not that our personal information isn't integral to everything we do, right? We don't want our information, our data stored on central servers. Basically, we have this system where we get free services, but we give away all of our data. And we're just finding out about it now as a public. But imagine giving up something you worked on for maybe a lifetime, right? You're an artist, even if you're just somebody that produces things on YouTube. We've really devalued art on the internet. It's the only industry that's been so disrupted because we're not dealing with physical objects, we're dealing with data. So when you convert your lifetime of work or whatever you're doing into data, you're now at the mercy of giant corporations taking over, and you have no economy to make money from it. And I think the idea of bringing in smart contracts, a smart contract, for people that don't know, it's sort of like a vending machine on the internet. If you fulfill the terms by putting in say 50 cents, automatically a bag of chips comes out, right? So that's the metaphor, that these contracts will be automatically executed if the terms are met. So what Jiarui's saying is we can cut out so many of these additional fees, right? Because it's not just a centralized company that's taking a cut. It's also legal fees. There's all kinds of paperwork. So I think what you're talking about is really in line with what we're doing. We're just an infrastructure to build on. But we need applications to come and be a decentralized Spotify, decentralized Netflix. And that's just one thing you can do on Elastos that focuses on the content creators. You can make any kind of app on Elastos, but I'm particularly invested in artists having an internet that values them, because the internet has become like a used car lot for artists. Nobody wants to pay full price for anything. They think that it's automatically, not worth what it is worth, right? I think people are afraid that we're headed for a 1984 Orwellian future where people were going to burn content, but it's more like Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. We have so much content, and it's all free or controlled by corporations, that artists have their own sort of, as you say, nightmare or dystopia, where we don't, as a culture, really know how to value art because of the internet. And it's not about blaming people, it's about fixing it, right? We're creating an alternative option. So when we have a decentralized version of something that exists, they can both exist side by side, and we can allow the free market to decide what they want to do, who they want to use. There's advantages to both, but there needs to be an alternative.
I just want to say one thing too. So, well, firstly, I'm VP of Development for Elastos, and I have a software engineer background. Just taking a step back, the common theme here is owning your own data and being able to monetize your own data. And like Zach was talking about, your data is worth money, right? No matter what, it's about decentralization is about taking out the middlemen, and we also can, with blockchain, we can introduce scarcity to models that are similar to CDs in the current in the past decade. So with the scarcity concept, you can have artists that create limited numbers of their copies. Like for example, I was talking about if Taylor Swift, when she was first starting out, wasn't that popular, and she made 10,000 copies of her media, and those are collector items. And now that she's so popular, those 10,000 songs, people recognize the value. People recognize that digital assets are worth value. These digital assets go up in value. It brings a new appreciation to digital assets, and it brings a proper economy on the internet for artists to flourish.
Yes, scarcity of data is something we can do on Elastos, and it's really amazing because right now data is not scarce. That's the problem. It's not worth anything because there's too much of it, you can pirate it. So to be able to make things scarce, and that requires not just blockchain. Blockchain is one part, but a new infrastructure that can really authenticate data so you can prove ownership of data and digital assets, and you can't even access it without it. Then you can have, like he said, a hypothetical famous musician could release a limited edition amount of albums, right? So now we have more of a free market economy where if you want one of these 10,000 albums, you have to deal with it just like it's a limited, scarce good. These new innovations are what the Internet 3.0 or 4.0 is about. It's about decentralizing things, modernizing things, and for this conversation, it's going to benefit people that have intellectual property that they cannot convert onto the Internet without surrendering all of their rights, and obviously their own income is what we can point to is suffering so much, right? The starving artist on the Internet are most artists, even artists that are successful in life, they don't necessarily make a lot of money through the Internet.
And make no mistake about it, I mean, we don't solve piracy, but with the blockchain and the immutable ledger, we can have a database to go to see if you have a pirated copy or not, much more easily than it is currently. And with that ability, I mean, people might actually start appreciating the authentic copy of someone's work, right? It's a convenience factor, and we want to get it down to a reasonable cost, but I think there's a happy medium that we can all agree on where content is at a price that's reasonable to everyone to buy, and people appreciate owning the authentic copy.
Yeah, one of the major reasons why content, music, video, why those content is hugely devalued in the digital environment is that we don't have a regular market on internet yet, right, for content, right? And I just mentioned, right, and like a bank who charge 85% as processing fee, right, that would never exist in a normal market, right, in reality, right, except on internet. We artists have to face this reality every day. And the problem about copyright market is very complicated legal landscape, right? Very complicated legal landscape. And a lot of people complain, music labels, music publishers, they exploit artists, right? But they did exist for a reason, to handle legal matters, to handle license, to handle copyright royalties, right? But now we have this new powerful blockchain technology. We can actually decentralize all those licensing agreements, licensing deals, and we can actually automate all the legal and the licensing processes. So it it's actually dramatically changed the role of music labels and music publishers. Now they can focus more on, for example, production, right? Selection. They can promote. They can focus more on promotion, right? But they won't be able to charge just 85% just for processing the payment. That's ridiculous, right? And with this new powerful technology, I think projects like Elastos and my project can actually dramatically change the landscape.
And speaking of 85%, how much do you think Facebook and Google make off your data? That's another thing that, taking a step back, you've got to realize that data is worth money. And you don't realize it, but Google takes your data, your web browsing, your behavior, they sell it to advertisers, you get none of that. In the future world, not just for IP, but everything, data is worth money, and we can create a future where you actually get properly compensated for not just not just artists getting properly compensated, but everybody does. Like I would say, if you spend $50,000, advertisers would be happy to pay $5,000 to sway what you buy, and that's $5,000 that you're not getting, that Google's getting. And this is the future that we can create with Elastos or just blockchain technology.
I think we are done on time, but yeah, the data economy is sort of the next evolution of the internet, and if anyone would like to come up and talk to us afterwards, we actually didn't have time. We're going to have one of our partners, an application that's already building on Elastos called WeFilmChain. They're here, so come up and talk to us afterwards. But you can explain, our CEO Garnet, that we can use smart contracts and blockchain technology to help fund the film industry. They specifically have an application for it right now. We hope to have hundreds of different content creation sites built on Elastos in the next couple of years. And it's pretty much like 1995 in the internet. We don't know where it's going. We need people to come and innovate and build on a new infrastructure using blockchain. And at that point, we're going to see innovation for the next 20, 30 years using decentralized models in blockchain. And I hope that we're going to use them appropriately and really innovate the internet and not just help artists, help everyone. As Clarence said, we all produce data. We all should be compensated or have a mechanism to be compensated. So we need public education. We really need people to understand a little bit more how the internet and blockchain works. We need to make it user-friendly and disrupt the monopolies.
I mean, the blockchain revolution is just getting started, and this is why there's great synergy here. Like, we are just testing the waters to see what's possible. There are a lot of legal concerns, but there is a choice. We don't have to accept this 85% thing. I mean, even at your savings account, you make 2%. The honest truth is the bank makes 20 times what they give you, your 2% on your savings account. We don't. Anywhere else do we do that? Do you sell your house and say, okay, keep 90%, I'm just going to keep 10%? But we don't do that, but this is because we don't have an option. But in the future, there is possibility for an option.
Clarence is getting into idealistic Bitcoin disruption, so yeah, come talk to us afterwards if you have questions about blockchain or the new internet or the complicated legal aspects of how this is all going to work. We'd be happy to talk to anyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this 25 minutes blockbuster. And we are open for questions after this session. Thank you.
Thank you very much.